program, proudly brought to you by Norah Jones' Come Away With Me, the must-have album of the year.
Come and gone, and we talked up a storm about our team, about our form, and how it could be. But when Monday comes around, the talk around the town is what happened on the weekend in the Footy. Monday nights, we're talking Footy.
Hello everybody, Danny Frawley, our guest tonight. Have we got him at the right time? Well, we're looking forward to talking to Danny. Good weekend for the top teams. The only losing team in the 8 was Fremantle. They played Collingwood, but we've had the same 8 for the last 5 weeks. Caroline and Tim, welcome. It's only for positions in the 8 now, isn't it? I mean, the 8's settled. There won't be any changes,
particularly now, Tim, that we've reached that point when every team has now played each other. So everyone's played each other, and they tend to say that that's the line in the sand.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how much that takes out of Hawthorn, that loss yesterday. I mean, they were very gallant in defeat. It was an excellent game of football, clearly the best game of football that I saw over the weekend, but now they've got a fair bit of work to do. I mean, there's a bit of a buffer now between those sides outside the 8 and the 8th side.
The only thing I was going to say, though, given that there's only one coach at the end of the year out of contract, and that's Peter Schwab, and Hawthorn have been terrific, and Schwabby handled the crisis, popular word that one, Tim, crisis, handled it really well and has come out of it looking fabulous. Could this be the first year in many years that there is not one coaching change?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think that, I mean, I heard Dermot Brereton talk about this, and he's obviously on the selection panel at Hawthorn about, yes, they would look at Peter Schwab's contract at the end of this year, but it wouldn't necessarily exclude Peter from coaching next year if they didn't make the 8. It would depend upon his performance. Now, I would think there would be a lot to like about the maturity of Peter Schwab this year as a coach, given what he's been through.
If you drew the line now, he'd coach next year for sure.
They'll offer him a one-year contract. That's my prediction.
OK. Just how fluid and volatile it is. Port Adelaide, West Coast, this Saturday night. If West Coast wins, they'll be top. If they lose, they'll probably be 5th. I mean, that's how the situation is at the moment. And for the next fortnight, Port Adelaide play West Coast and Brisbane. That is going to have such a bearing on where the finals are played and who will be Premiership favourites. So I think the next fortnight's going to tell a tale. There's
a little bit of panic, isn't there? And you even saw it in Lee Matthews' face yesterday. There was more at stake than just the 4 points yesterday. I think he was actually calculating in his mind as the game ticked on, you know, what that meant to the Brisbane Lions winning that game.
His problem at the moment is that West Coast has got 12% on Brisbane. They've both had the draw, so he has to win one more game now than West Coast. West Coast hammering Carlton on the weekend, so he knows if he doesn't finish top 2, the chances of winning a 3rd premiership have been diminished. Not gone, but diminished. The Kangaroos, they've just got oodles of bottle, haven't they? Yeah. They just ooze character. And Shannon Grant, a Norm Smith medalist, I mean, this kick yesterday probably, singularly, is going to get them into the 8. Now, I know that was ridiculous to say that about a year, but into the breeze, things were tight. Melbourne were going to run over them at that point, and he drills at home, and they get home, and now they've got the buffer of basically 2 matches.
I know we've said this before, but we talk about the shinboner spirit, but it is more than just spirit. I mean, it is class. The cream rises to the top in this side. When they're under pressure, it's often, you know, Grant, Simpson, Stevens, Archer. It's still that old guard there, King, who are still intact, who are able to actually produce something.
A young one produced something. You're right, but a young one called Daniel Wells produced something on the weekend. Now, how good was this late in the match? We'll talk about second efforts.
Yeah, well, you know, it was touch and go whether or not this kid went first or second pick in the national draft last year. Now, he's played mostly cameo roles throughout the season, but he is starting to step up, and Archer had a few kind words to say about him after the game, and Glenn Archer's not one for making grandiose statements, but I think that probably says it all.
They say that he's going to be a champion. They say at training, Bruce, that Archer tells everyone to leave him alone. Don't touch the draft pick. Don't tackle the draft pick. He's our gold. And I just wonder whether that middle rank of kids at North Melbourne are going to be as good, though, as Archer, Stevens, Carey, etc., and whether they'll be good enough to win the next flag. They're certainly good enough to give us a lot of bang for our buck. I mean, we have seen some great performances from North this year.
There's a lot, I mean, they've got a lot to live up to be as good as that core group of players, their senior group of players.
Because you'd have to say Archer and Stevens would only have a couple more years left. Like maybe the end of next season, that'd be it.
There's another very good kid that we don't talk very much about, and that's Petrie. And he's only a developing tall, and often they take a lot longer, the tall players, than the smaller, medium-sized players. But, I mean, he's given them, I would believe, more than they expected from him.
Look, they've been an amazing story all year, the Kangaroos. And
Dennis would be enjoying this conversation too, wouldn't he?
Dennis,
well, everybody said that he left them in total decay, but that's not the case. I mean, there's more there than probably most of us thought.
But are you thinking he'd be thinking, gee, I wish I was still there, not at Carlton?
Well, it's just such an amazing predicament. I mean, he was seen at the time to have quit a football club and have left them totally in the lurch with nothing, and gone to a rich and powerful club that, OK, were having a few problems at the time, and look where he's ended up. I mean, he is having one of the worst time of his football career, and he's up against it.
Was he reminded at the press conference that was Carlton's greatest losing margin on the weekend?
Yeah, it was a brave journo who brought that up. He looks terrible.
That's what coaching does to you, Karen.
He had surgery last week, didn't he, for a couple of growths on his forehead, and that was just a terrible performance. And
they had fitness trials at Carlton today, and the players have been told to bring their mouth guards for training tomorrow. So I think he's clearly spelt out to the playing group what's in store.
Carlton plays Sydney on the weekend. If Dennis Pagan is the coach, I think Dennis Pagan is, Carlton will put in a terrific performance against Sydney on Saturday at Optus Oval.
Even with the Perth hoodoo?
I just think that...
I'm only being facetious. I mean, there will be no hoodoo with Carlton. Surely they can't play as poorly as they did. If it's another
pathetic performance on Saturday, then it's a long, lean bunch of years for the Blues.
Is Lawrence Angwin giving them anything to smile about, do you think? I mean, this enfant terrible, you know, at the Crows and then at Hawthorn.
Here's a kid with a lot of personal problems, had some terrible problems in Adelaide, left the town with very few friends, didn't he, Tim? And Hawthorn took him on at the Box Hill Hawks in a bid to resurrect him for the sake largely of his grandfather Andy Angwin, and now Dennis has taken him on, and he's a classic Dennis at picking up kids like this.
And speaking of blokes making headlines in Adelaide, Mark Williams did after this yesterday.
Well, I thought that they come out to headhunt us without any doubt about it. We retaliated and they got all the frees, and you can see that pretty simply. And, you know, I heard Diamantino on the radio in Adelaide talking about what we might be in for, and he was the one that was saying it. And, you know, I'm sure that, you know, we stood up to it.
Herald Sun said today, you've got to be kidding, Choco. Is it you've got to be kidding or fair enough, Choco? Which way do you reckon?
Oh, I thought that was pretty ridiculous. I mean, when you look back to some of the way Port Adelaide play, they are a very tough side, and I'm thinking about young Bulldogs like Sam Power and the word headhunting. I mean, I'm sorry.
Look, if you were Mark Williams, you would have been disappointed with the group after the game, because I think they showed a lack of maturity in the way that the game started. I didn't think they handled it very well. I mean, they gave away silly free kicks. They took a long time to settle down, and the Bulldogs got the jump on them. I would have thought that you'd been pretty disappointed behind closed doors.
Look, there was a bit of an agenda set earlier in the year in the Wizard Cup against Fremantle, where Port copped a lot of criticism, and Chris Conley was very, very unhappy. I know that Mark Williams was really disappointed with the umpiring yesterday.
A lot of coaches are.
And Chris Conley after this was more than disappointed, as you can see after this match. So, look, I'm with you, Tim. I thought Port reacted naively yesterday, early in the match. I reckon there are two words in Adelaide at the moment that, with Port, F and P. One's finals and one's pressure, and we don't know how they're going to handle it. It is building. I mean, Chad Corns was asked after the game if they were thinking about the finals, and he said no at one stage, and then went on to say basically that's what they were looking forward to. Look,
Are you saying there might be a sign of that brittle?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that the agenda has been set. It's on everybody's lips. It's in front of Mark Williams and his team right now. I'm fascinated to see how they're going to handle it. I still think they'll have a very good September, but it's still to be proven.
Speaking of pressure, how's Chris Conley going at the moment? We've just had a look at him there, but he's also come out and played the victim to a degree, hasn't he?
Yeah, look, I don't think he's doing the right thing by his side in painting them as the victim. And, I think I read somewhere about him wanting to, if players were verbalised during the game, that to come off and tell the bench and will tell the emergency umpire. I mean, I think that this is it's part of the rite of passage as a football to actually be able to rise above that. You're going to be verbalised, you're going to be physically intimidated at different stages, and I think that I don't think he's doing his players any favours at all.
Is there still a crisis at the Bulldogs, Caro?
Well, there was certainly one last week, but there shouldn't be as much of a crisis this week, Bruce, because they played really well and really came out to play on the weekend. But to suggest that there's not an on-field crisis when you won 1-12, I think they were, last week, and the president, as we revealed on the show last week, has called the coach and said, come to my house, we'll have a meeting on Monday night. I want to know everything that you did during the day today and how the players reacted and responded to training, and I want you to map out the rest of the week for me day by day. And then there's a player meeting where the president goes and deals with the players. I think 7 News had more on that tonight.
Yeah. Well,
Tim.
That's right. It was revealed that in that meeting the players were actually concerned about the fact that 26 of them are still uncontracted. Now, at any one stage you're going to have half your playing list uncontracted, but that is a very high percentage. And there was a suggestion at the meeting with David Smorgon from some of the players that the reason why perhaps there's disunity within the club, or perhaps there's this feeling of instability within the playing group, is that so many of them have their future at this point in time uncertain. Another
club with a problem, the Bombers. Dustin Fletcher's been reported for a 10th time. I mean, how stupid was this? I mean, this is just so bad by Fletcher. He's missed so many games through injury. For him to do this to his club and to Kevin Sheedy, he hasn't been suspended. No. He may not be suspended. This was with about a minute to go. He played very poorly, by the way, on Friday night. Yeah. That wasn't the only incident, though, either. I thought that... Tell us about Fletcher, though. I mean, what would Sheeds really be thinking about Fletcher? Not what he said on the news tonight. What would he really be thinking about him? Well, he'd be like any other coach. He'd be disappointed and angry with one of his senior players, one player that... And Dustin Fletcher would be disappointed and angry with his own display as well. But from a coaching perspective, I mean, yeah, you got your key players. Dustin Fletcher, there's no doubt when Fletcher, Lloyd and Hurd are playing well, Essendon have got a real chance of beating anyone in this competition. Now, potentially, they're going to be without, their bookend at the weekend. They've got... Alistair Lynch will be playing against this weekend. The following weekend will be David Neitz. And McCurry's been reported, just coming back. Rioli's just done 3. And I think Alessio's reported in the 2s on the weekend. Yeah. Cupido showed a real... Well, I thought he was also undisciplined on the weekend. There's a discipline problem at Essendon on field. Look, I think Essendon, if you cast your mind back to 99 and 2000, even the year where they won the flag, they were going very close. They were a very aggressive side. They were a very aggressive side. They were an edgy side, and I think that's where they believe that they play their best football, when they have that frame of mind. In-your-face stuff. But it's a balancing act that you have to perform. Well, it doesn't suit Fletcher, because he doesn't actually play his football that way. No, he doesn't. But he's been reported 10 times. Help, Dad. I reckon Christy Malthouse would have been saying that to Mickey after this interview before the game on Saturday. How have the emotions of the week affected the team? Well, it's very emotional. Emotional for you as well? Big one. Emotional for you as well? Oh, it's fantastic. It's a great day. Well, the weather, they're predicting rain, hail. It's staying away at the moment, but the wind is here. Well, one thing's for certain, it won't affect me, it'll affect you. You'll be the one who's getting wet, not me. That'll be the case. All right, we'll let you go. Good luck. OK, thanks, Chrissy. Daughter and Daddy, it was quite bizarre. I mean, Nicky was obviously very affected by Bob Rose. And the emotion of it. I just felt for Christy. As journos, we've all been in that situation, and it's a very difficult situation. I've never been in it with my father. I think that would be, quite strange. Well, people don't know your father, former president of Richmond. Not everybody would know. They were a premiership. No, he did ban me from the rooms, though. And for the first couple of years I covered footy. Richmond were the only club that wouldn't let women in the rooms in the years I covered footy when Dad was president, but I think that would be hard, really difficult. Obviously, though, Mick was fighting back tears, and he couldn't answer the questions because he was afraid that he was probably going to break down. It was great TV. It was engrossing. It was great TV. It was engrossing. And help Dad. Would Mick be happy with Chris Tarrant? I mean, what's going on here? I mean, Chris Connolly had set an agenda during the week about sledging, and then Mick said during the week, well, look, I don't say do, I don't encourage it, it's ridiculous. And then Chris on Channel 9 yesterday says, look, he did say try to get into them for a bit, and Magpies have the licence to sledge was the headline. It's a bit of a contradiction. He has contradicted him. The captain's come out today, Nathan Buckley, who incidentally will captain the club for the 100th time next weekend, next Friday night against the Tigers. We'll talk to Danny about that in a moment. But
Nathan Buckley said today at a press conference, I don't know what Chris was talking about. Mick certainly never told us to go out and sledge. You know, I mean, who do you believe?
I think it's important. The modern-day coach needs to inform his players of what they should be reading in the papers during the week, I think, to avoid any contradictions.
Well, Danny Frawley's our guest. We're looking forward to talking to him. The Tigers, they're pretty low at the moment, and I wonder what sort of a mood the coach is in. We're about to find out.
We've got lots of new things and segments planned for this year, and none more bigger or exciting than our new squadron detective, Danny Frawley. Welcome to the show, Danny.
Great to be here, Gary.
Now, Danny, AFL squadron. That does put a smile to your face, doesn't it?
Well, it does. You can see Gary Lyon. I made him what he is today.
Hey, Spud, I've got to say one thing. Gary's improved.
He looked like Lionel Richie there.
Good on you, Bess.
Well,
start.
Break the ice.
Danny, you never know in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, he's still got a what can I say?
Yeah.
Not much.
No. How are you handling it all? You've been under wraps a bit this year, haven't you? You haven't done much, media-wise?
Probably did too much last year. Not probably did. Yeah.
Definitely did?
Yeah. Oh, look, with Greg Miller coming on board, we had a good look at where we were last year as a group off-field. And I think the addition of Greg Miller, being our footy director, Greg Hutchison going from coaching to footy manager, getting Wayne Britton, having a dead set plan for the future, and sticking to that. I think the foundations have been really good. I think that's probably the most pleasing part about where we are at the moment. Whilst it's really ordinary that we've lost the last 7 games, you can still see that we're sticking rigid, and to talk on footy issues, and if there's any off-field issues, you've got the president, you've got Greg Miller, you've got Greg Hutchison. So last year it was just seen to be an issue at Richmond, wheel Danny out. So I think that's been, I'm really comfortable with that, and I think it makes me focus on the job what I'm paid to do, and that's coaching football.
Looking back, were you not experienced enough to shoulder what you had to shoulder those first few years?
Oh, yeah, look, going into coaching for the first time, you're wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. I had experiences at Collingwood, but when you get thrust into the seat, and as Tim to tell you, that the whole range of the gambit of the media, the marketing, the coaching side, it's the easiest part. But at the end of the day, you're going to be judged on getting the best out of your list.
And the other thing, you mentioned Greg Miller. It was revealed a couple of weeks ago that he insisted on contractual changes to your deal at Richmond, that there was an element of your contract that said if you didn't make the finals last year or this year, that you could go at the end of this year.
Look, that was pre-season. That was in November.
Yep. Did you ask Greg to do that,
No,
or did
not
Greg?
at all.
Was it the other way round?
Look, it was Greg and Clinton. They both looked at where we want to get to as a group, and our plan was all about being a part of the next Premiership at Richmond, and that was one of the things that they saw fit to make sure that we set out to achieve what we've started. So
you're contracted until the end of 2004.
That's right.
I understand you actually had a chat with Clinton today, did you?
Yeah, look, we had a function for Leon, Cameron's 250th. Unfortunately, we didn't get over the line for Leon. Would have been great for him. Clinton was there Saturday night. We had a chat. He just come down and had a chat to the football department today, and just made sure that, keep focused and keep the job at hand, and make sure we're focused on, beating Collingwood on Friday night. So, we often have a chat. There was nothing over the top.
Did he assure you that you're going to be there next year?
Look, there's never been any doubt whatsoever with that. People keep delving, but you ask myself, Clinton, Greg Miller, Greg Hutchison, the board, that's the only people you can ask. You can keep delving if you want to, but they're the facts.
Daniel, I'm sorry, Tim, I'm wondering, with Greg Miller, and do you talk to him about Pagan and how Pagan did it? I mean, that's the other coach that he had the long relationship with at the Kangaroos.
I'll be mad not to.
Yeah.
They've had a great success, a great reign together there for 10 years. What Greg's been able to achieve, as a player, recruiting, he was one of the first recruiters with Noel Judkins and Shane O'Sullivan. Like, he's been in the game for off-field near on 20, 30 years now, and you can't buy that experience. And as a young coach, I think it's been really important for me. I wish I had him 3 years ago, but I didn't have that, and that's life. You've got to get on with it. But the plan that we've all put together is an exciting one.
Danny, Greg Miller and I guess the rest of the football match committee have looked at the players' list. What's it telling you?
Oh, look, like all clubs, you're always looking at where you can improve. We think that we've made enormous inroads. We've been dealt a couple of ordinary cards with a lot of our impact players, but that's no excuse. We've looked at areas where we can really bolster, and that's probably takes the pressure off me a hell of a lot, because Greg is obviously going to give the recruiting a boost and really help Greg Beck. Dave Whedon's gone into that area now. So I'm really excited the fact that we've now got, you know, a really good team and bolstered that department and really helped guys like Greg Beck to really get the best talent available. So to me, you know, you're always looking at your list. You have a look at that mid-year, you have a look at the end of the year. It's a weekly thing as well.
Is it a renovation job you have to do with your list, or do you knock the house down? I mean, I think of 3 high draft picks that you've got at your club. Admittedly, Hilton wasn't yours, but he would have gone probably at about this. And they just haven't come through. Now, I know Fiora got hurt in Perth a couple of years ago, but they haven't come through, Danny, as top 10s. Yeah,
look, I suppose you look at Rory's 23. He's had a hell of a lot of injuries.
There probably are excuses, but they haven't come through, have they?
Aaron's still developing, and Kane. So, look, the challenge for them now is, and I suppose that's where we are as a group, with losing our captain and vice-captain. Everyone's going to have to step up to the plate. And to use that analogy, but they're going to get an opportunity.
Look, on that, the Kangaroos have got oodles of character, you know, more than enough. It's one of the question marks about the Tigers is their bottle and their character. Is that their on-field leadership, their strength under pressure? Do you reckon
I
you've got...
as a group, other than the Swans game, the West Coast game in West Coast, of course, wasn't acceptable. Our effort, and I believe that the way we've been able to grind out games without being brilliant, we had a lot of momentum early in the year. There's been a lot of character there in trying times. There hasn't been a game other than, you know, the Sydney game would probably be our worst effort. And before the season started, as a group, to a man, we wanted to make sure we had a consistent effort for 4 quarters. Now, that was in isolation Saturday's game. We played a quarter and a half of football. And it's no disrespect to Geelong, because they deserved to win the game, because when the game was up for grabs, they played the better football, by the way.
How can you explain, then, the start of Saturday's game? Because that would have been one of the most disappointing first halves of football. I mean, you talk about the Sydney Swans game being the most disappointing, but I would have thought that that's the worst I've seen Richmond play this season, was the first half at the weekend.
Yeah, you'll get no arguments from me on that one. It's the build-up was good. We had one of our leaders playing his 250th game, and Leon Cameron, and you know, he's made a difference to our club, and we talked about not only on-field, off-field. He was probably the only one that stood up in the first half by kicking his 4 goals, so he did his bit. And then obviously the boys got a little bit angry with the performance at half-time and had a good think about it and reacted in the positive way. But that still makes you look back and say, look, we're all professionals. We've got to make sure we come to the game ready to play. And as I said, the preparation was there. Maybe, I don't know, who knows, we might have been over the top too much with Leon's 250 and the emotion of it, but Geelong, you've got to give credit where it's due.
Well, they knew your game plan, didn't they, Danny? They'd read the Herald Sun during the week and seen the photo.
Oh, they saw our training drill. Yeah, look, we always have our board out there most weeks.
Did you get peeved about this?
No, not at all. No, we don't have... We have closed sessions now and again, but we have lock-ins, not lock-outs. We've got to get the supporters and our members to come and watch training. We need as many as we can.
11 o'clock Thursday morning, yeah?
Tomorrow morning, yes, and 11 on Thursday.
But Danny, the thing that keeps letting you down week in, week out, and it happened against Adelaide when there was a sort of a chance to win, is that players who aren't good enough let you down at crucial moments. And players that a lot of Richmond supporters would say shouldn't even really be on your list, and that you haven't been tough enough, and you have been there for nearly 4 years now, at the end of each season, and traded in a tougher manner.
Yeah, I suppose you look at the list at the start of the year and you look at all your better players and you say, well, if they play 18, 19 games each and play in their rightful positions, you're going to win more games than you lose as long as the effort's there. But when you take your bookends out, and I'm talking about Gasper and Ottens, and if someone had told at the start of the year that they were going to play a game together for the year, half a game, you're thinking, well, hang on, your best ruckman / forward with Greg Stafford and your best defender, we've played a half a game between them for the year. It just means that all your preparation to your pre-season with those two guys, you've got to put another guy in his position, which means your half-back flanker goes to full-back. You've got to grab someone to go into that half-back flank that you've nurtured all year. But the positive of that, I think the inroads we've made is Chrissy Newman. He's going to be an absolute beauty eventually. He's been asked to do some terrific jobs. I think if you went and watched the duel on Gary Ablett versus Newman on the weekend, you would have seen probably a duel that's going to happen for the next 10 years.
He's been terrific, but for every Chris Newman, there are
young Coughlin.
There are 5 or 6 or four who will never play finals football.
Yeah, well, look, there's 42 on every list, and only 22 guys get to play finals as well, out of those 42. So you need depth. We're striving to really strengthen that list, and as I said, the opportunity there over the next 7-8 weeks and hopefully finals, these boys are going to get an opportunity.
Danny, at the end of this year, if you don't make the 8 and whatever happens in the next 7 weeks, but how many players do you expect to turn over? Right now, if you drew the line, how many players would you want to turn over for next season?
Well, the league says you've got to turn over 4.
And you take advantage of... OK.
Well, you have to.
Yep.
You have to do that. So we'll have a look at that. The trading's got to come into account. Look, as I said, that process has really been an ongoing thing, and you know, to sit here and say that A, B, C or D won't be there next year.
Is Richo tradable? I mean, Robert Wall suggested that it wouldn't be a bad move, it'd be a good move. Is he tradable? Would you think about him?
No, not at all. No,
Why not?
Well, you tell me.
Well, you'd get something for him. He's 28 years of age. You're not going to get anything for him after this next contract.
How many power forwards are in the competition?
There's a few, but not many. They're hard to get.
There's your answer. They're hard to get.
So you'll stay
why would you let one go?
Will he captain Richmond for the rest of the season?
He will. And that's a good challenge in itself. At the start of the year, he said he wanted to put his hand up. Our leadership group now have to take a bigger responsibility with, you know, Darren vice-captain and Wayne now sitting in a hospital bed. He's probably watching here at the minute at the Mercy. So our captain's up in a hospital bed, so he's going to relish that challenge. He's going to have to get a lot of support from his teammates.
Danny, when you coach a group of players and when you're with the players for a long time, you can actually get too close to them, and sometimes you wonder about your own judgments about that group of players. Bringing Greg Miller in from the outside, who's been associated with a very successful club, has his assessment of the list been more brutal than what your assessment of the list would have been? Look,
as I said, it's ongoing, and it's great to have a guy like that that's been at the top of the tree, being able to get a list from, you know, and recruit the guys like Wayne Carey and Longmire, and hopefully jag a couple of them as well in the pre-season. But it's been really healthy to see a guy that's been involved in finals consistently, knows what finals football's all about, knows what type of player is expected to play finals football / premierships. That's what it's all about. You just don't want to get there. And like we did in 2001, you want to have sustained success. So to answer your question, it's a very healthy thing to have there.
Sledging has been a bit of a topic during the week. After the break, Danny, we're going to show you the ultimate sledge. We'll be back with more on Talking Footy. Well, there's been a fair bit talked about sledging on the weekend. This is the ultimate one. Ben Cousins with the ex-Port Adelaide player Barnaby French with the Blues. It gets a lot worse than this in just a moment. Not much respect for Carlton here from the West Coast captain. Ducking your head, eh? Gee, I don't reckon Ben will be happy with that.
No, he may not be happy with that, but I mean, it's ugly, isn't it, when you've got two of the midfield players from an opposition side giving it verbally to the ruckman, who's symbolically the strong man of a team.
Danny, not a show goes by without Chris Judd being mentioned. He's Tim's favourite.
He's a lot of people's favourite.
Who would you take right now, Chris Judd or Matthew Pavlich, if you had a choice?
Love them both.
OK, Tim, I'm going to give us... Who's the better prospect?
I'll tell you who's the better player at the moment. Chris Judd is a more influential player now, but I think the fact that Matthew Pavlich can actually play a key position, and the key position players are drying up in this game, and he's got the ability to run in the midfield as well. I think in time he might be more of an impact player than Chris Judd, although he's got a heavy body, and that may stop him from playing as much football as he appears he might play at this stage. On an interview with you, Caroline, on the weekend, John Worsfold set an agenda for both Judd and David Wirapunda.
Yeah, he did. He said that, he strongly implied that David Wirapunda had the chance to leave last year, that they thought he might want to come home. They offered him the chance. Wirapunda said no. And West Coast now reckon it's his turn to pay them back. And with Judd, he just talked about how frustrating it is not knowing what he's going to do, because it's going to make... He will take a huge chunk out of their salary cap. It's affecting all the other contracts they do and all their trade plans. And yet, because he's Chris Judd, they're prepared to let him do it. I mean, what else can you do? Is he the talk behind the scenes of every Melbourne recruiter at the moment?
Oh, look, they're both quality players. They're both Melbourne boys, and that's a challenge for all interstate clubs and even Victorian clubs to keep your interstate players at home.
Are you going for them at the moment, Danny?
Oh, look, they're quality players.
Mark Coughlin's a West Australian. Would you...
He's a very good player for us, and he's just nurturing along nice. And Mark's been a real solid contributor for us. He's playing on, you know, all the opposition best players every week. He's learning a lot. He's played on Voss and Black and Rashudo. He'll probably play on Buckley this week.
Would you trade him, Danny, for one of those?
No, he loves it here.
Danny,
and
sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. He's a Richmond man. I think the Richmond people, and more importantly, he's been a young coach. I'd like to see him develop and really set the foundations.
Danny, there is a rumour. There's a rumour going around that Coughlin and a first draft pick for Judd from Richmond. You haven't heard it?
Well, I haven't heard it, Bruce. Who started it?
Lee Matthews said it.
And I'll be having a chat to Mark in the morning, by the way, because I'm sure he'll find out after watching this show.
Lee Matthews said that Chris Judd was a $500,000 player.
Look, those two boys are involved in a pretty exciting team over there at the moment too. I think the success and how far, or if they just get, you know, this far away from it for the ultimate, that's going to be a huge law for them to stay there, I would have thought. You play football for team success. That's...
On the road, Danny, on the road. I mean, the Victorian teams are, en masse are just struggling.
Yeah, well, obviously, we haven't been too good.
They're the current losing streaks. I mean, you're up there with the Saints, but they're not far worse off than the Blues and the Bombers. And the Bombers have been a good side. Maybe not so much this year, but Kangaroos and Hawthorn. That's not including Manuka and York Park, so no Tasmania or Canberra in that. I wonder why. They're big figures, aren't they?
Yeah, no, it's disappointing. And I look at 2001, we did have a very good record on the road and hence, you know, finished in the top 4. So you've got to be able to win interstate to be a consistent finals performer. You can look at that, and we have to improve terribly on that.
Or you can be like Collingwood and never have to go to West Australia at all in one particular season.
Oh, look, we were happy with our draw. You know, we knew in October our draw was going to be, you know, 2 trips to Western Australia. We didn't realise we were going to have one in the pre-season as well, which made it 3. But that's the way it is. It's a national game.
Is it just an example? Sorry, is it just an example of where the competition's at, though? I mean, to be a side that's capable of winning on the road, you've got to be a very good team. Is it saying that we don't have very good teams in Victoria at the moment?
No, you've got to have your best team, your best talent available to win interstate, and you've got to do everything right. And
what's happened also is the 6 interstate teams are very good teams.
Very good, yeah.
And so it's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
It's a lot harder to win interstate of a night time.
Is it a nonsense?
The atmosphere?
Nick Malthouse, Danny, Nick Malthouse has said it's a nonsense, this whole travelling factor and not being able to win after a week on the road at Subiaco. I mean, is it a nonsense, or is there some
I think it is.
realism attached to it?
It's just one of those things this year that's happened. Hasn't happened before, but at this stage of this season, it is a hoodoo.
And part of that must be because the Eagles and the Dockers are very good teams as well. Jonathan, you talked about Richo earlier, and quality big forwards. I mean, Brown showed a bit on the weekend. This is the Brown for Brisbane, who 2 years ago looked like he was the next Carey, didn't he, in that final series?
It's just keeping his body together, Bruce. He went off with what appeared to be a slight, and it's actually when he went up for that mark, he appeared to slightly damage his hamstring.
How's the half volley here?
This is magnificent, and his vision, and there's no doubt. I mean, the more you watch football, the more you realise that if you've got a player capable of playing centre-half forward for you, you've got a chance of winning football. Every weekend it throws up that to you, like Treadray for Port Adelaide. When Holland went and fired at centre-half forward for you in the last quarter, you looked like all of a sudden you had an avenue to goal. You know, we see Tarrant week in, week out for Collingwood, Jonathan Brown when he's fit for the Brisbane Lions. I mean, it remains the key position on the football ground.
Well, the ball's got to get through there to get through the goals, and the more times you can keep it in there, the better chance you have got of scoring. And look, Carey's been the best that I've seen. And you've got to be able to compete in all facets of the game, centre forward, to be an elite player. And Brown, as you said there, being able to do that, he can catch it in the air, and he's elite at ground level, and his hands and vision are good too.
That's what Matthews wrote about a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? It's not all conventional. I mean, Treadray also was Carey-like. Again, at Telstra Day. Kicked 6-1 on the weekend. He kicked that really big goal against Geelong. Ben Perkins is an extraordinary character who is the Wallabies kicking coach at the moment. This is Benjamin's card that he hands out. He pressured Choco so much in Adelaide that they sent him down, and Ben did some great work with Treadray with his kicking at the start of the year, and it's really paying off. Have a look at this, Dan. He's a radio personality, he's a Wallabies kicking coach, he's a movie and theatre critic, he's a true religion raconteur, poetry and satire recitals, former TV star, and he'll read your palm if you're not careful.
He split the atoms too, didn't he?
Take that number down. I have met him briefly. He is a character. Anyway, he's done the job with Treadray.
Are there any weirdos like that down at Tigerland?
He's not a weirdo.
Well, if he's done that job with Treadray,
he's got a good CV.
Would you consider getting him in to help Matthew Richardson with his kicking?
I don't know who the guy is, but the former TV star, what show is he on?
It's like a junior supporters club.
It takes one to know one.
Actually, I wouldn't mind having another look at that, Sergeant Spud.
Give me a smell, Bruce.
Have a look, this bloke might help.
I'm going to coach my boys at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Can we turn to something that just gnaws at the heart of so many Richmond fans, and that is the response yet again of Kevin Bartlett, who we're told is to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. He's already in the Hall of Fame. He's to become the club's second immortal after Jack Dyer, with Tom Hafey as the third on Saturday night, and he has again refused to turn up. Have you tried to talk to him?
Look, I have on numerous occasions. He helped us out in 2001, actually. We had a lot of the legends just do a short video on what it meant to them to play finals football and obviously the ultimate, so he helped us out in that area. But look, I wasn't around at Richmond when all that happened. It's probably between Kevin and Kevin's sticking to his dig. But look, we would love him to come back to the club, but that's his prerogative. And you know, I've tried, and that's all he can do. You know, and he has been a fantastic player at the club and a legend. And it's going to be a terrific night on Saturday night.
But there is a hollow feeling if the immortal doesn't turn up. I mean, look, for what it's worth, I think everyone sitting here would just love him to bury the hatchet and go, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen.
You never know.
Sorry, Dan?
You never know.
No, you don't. It would be a good result. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more right after this. Been a lot of talk about head highs this year. I mean, I know Carr was on the up there, but Buckley, that was a good tackle, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, we've spoken about this for a number of weeks about how players have come in and been reckless in that situation, but I guess Nathan Buckley has shown leadership there. That's the way you tackle under those circumstances.
Wouldn't you love him to win a Brownlow? And he's in Brownlow form. He's gone past Wanganeen in the Age Player of the Year. Remember how far Wanganeen was in front? Yeah. That's how rich his form is. I saw two other greats on Friday night. Hurd was just so brave and so good. And Carey, he turned the clock back, and there's a chance that he might play against Fremantle. I spoke to John Reid tonight. He's not out of it.
With 12 stitches in his
14, I think. How good was Carey? And
yeah, look, I think it was like the clock had been turned back on Friday night. Danny, we were talking about it before, about how well he handles wet conditions. Yeah,
the game against Carlton, he was terrific. And he's had, what, 4 games under his belt now, and his recovery in a couple of instances on Friday night was the Carey of old.
I saw him in a final against Geelong on a wet night, a Sunday night, I reckon it was, when he kicked 7 goals. He was...
he just gave them an
6 years ago
on Friday night.
Turning the clock back...
back too, didn't he?
He doesn't lack confidence. Turning the clock back to 2 of your old teammates, Nathan Burke is going to announce his retirement, if not at the end of the year, before the end of the season. Is it right that he goes past Stuart Lowe and that game's record at St Kilda?
Got 1 to equal it, Danny.
Oh, look, that's up to Bergie to and the club to work that one out, but it looks like he's going to do that. But I think, like everything, that they wanted the ultimate success. I think that's irrelevant. I'll look back at it in 20 years' time. But unfortunately, the way things are going, if he does retire, they're going to end up like me, not like Tim. Retired Premiership players, and I think that's what anyone sets out to achieve.
But it would be fitting, wouldn't it, that the co-captains of the past could end on the same amount of games. I don't think Nathan Burke would... I don't think it would really hurt the St Kilda side to lose Nathan Burke at the moment.
Well, do a Mark Taylor, you reckon, and declare. Do a Mark Taylor or the Don.
It's a bit harsh, Caroline.
You're a friend of his. What do you advise him?
He's contributing to the team at the moment. I would have thought. I've got my own issues to deal with at Richmond, but look, he's been an absolute icon of that club. You better ask St Kilda and Nathan.
He's been a brilliant player.
And one of my good friends, by the way. So
he's been a brilliant player for that club, but is St Kilda indulging him by playing him to the end of the year?
I haven't had 5 minutes to think about it, Caroline. Ask me tomorrow.
Do you think Mickey Martin will retire when he gets to 300?
No.
I've been worrying about who's going to play on Nathan, Buckley and Burns this week.
Can you tell us?
I'm pretty sure Coghlan will be around there somewhere.
On Buckley?
On one of them.
Do you have to tag Buckley?
Oh, look, he's in rare form again. He's a champion. There's always 2 ways you can go about it. I'd love to be able to slot Duncan Callaway on him, but he's unfortunately sitting in the grandstand. Duncan's probably had one of the better records on Nathan, but his kicking and ball use and the way he's running, you really have to play 2, 3 on him the way he's playing.
Good luck, Kenny. A reminder about Seven's big Sunday of sport.
For the complete wrap on sport, join Joanna Griggs and the Sports World team. Sunday morning from 9:30. And then in Southern States, join Big Rex and the football panel.
I cannot say, I actually witnessed us win the grand final because when Barry Breen kicked the point, I fainted and I never heard the siren go. So I've never actually seen him could have win a grand final.
Were you with Tommy Hafey at the time? You were.
Now, Danny, what's been tougher, mate? Lifting these weights? We're going back a bit here. Or Caro's grilling tonight. What do you reckon? No, you've shown a lot of heart here.
Oh, look at the dude.
It's going to get harder. Talk about coaches having weight on their shoulders. Look at this. You're going to do it. You're going to do it.
Right arms, ordinary.
This is when Sevens News was looking for the strongest man in AFL football.
And Sam Coffer. Yeah. And Danny, this got the better of you. But it was a good effort.
No trouble. Sam was on his own. We couldn't get it off.
So you can lift weight off your own shoulders.
Did you crack 2 ribs?
No, not really. Nearly did.
You're famous for your antics in the coach's box too, aren't you? When we noticed that Tony Jules moved into the box this year, what was the thinking behind that?
Oh, look, Tony's was always welcome, but it was always good to have a guy who's been involved at the top level. You know, he's played in the Premiership, he's coached a Premiership, he's then come back and coached them again. And he's one of my confidants, and I think it's always good to have someone sitting down back there out of the heat and is not involved in the actual coaching structure, but can sit down and I can have a chat to him and what worked, what didn't, where we could get better. So that was all about our helicopter view at the end of last year.
Danny, you need a big win.
We do, Bruce.
Collingwood would be a big win.
Yeah, look, they're in terrific form. They're in rare form, so it'll be a big crowd there, it'll be a good opportunity for us. We've got a number of our leaders out, so it's a great opportunity to step up.
Good luck. Have you ever sworn on the field or in the box?
A couple of times.
OK. Chris Conley, good idea, but you're going to struggle, I think.
This program proudly brought to you by Norah Jones' Come Away With Me, the must-have album of the year.